So as Sam said, we're going to talk about Microsoft Forms today. And we use this, like she said, for various reasons, and I'll go into the ways you can use it. But it is part of the Office 365 package. It is a software. You can use it with Excel to organize the results from the form, but it's a way to create an electronic form to collect information. So that is the basic use for Microsoft Forms. And so how can you use it? You can make it into a poll. We use those frequently after our coffee and pie or coffee and concur we did before. We would send out a poll to say, how are we doing? How can we do better? And you guys would fill those out and give us some feedback. You can use it to make task requests. So if you want, for our office, we use it to track travel requests. So if someone wants to travel, they go on and fill out this form and it gives us all the information from start to finish about their trip so that we can make arrangements for them and do a request and do the expense report at the end. You can use it for RSVPs. So if you do events, event management, then you can send this out to collect responses from people if they're coming, and if they're coming, what they want to eat. If they have dietary restrictions, you can collect shirt sizes, badge names, whatever you want to collect for those people for your event. You can also use it for quizzes and tests. So if you're instructing something, even if it's just interior to your office, if you want your staff to learn something new and you want to make sure that they learned it, then you can create a little quiz and have them take it just so you can get that feedback to see if they actually learned what they were supposed to learn. So again, just like we did last week with SharePoint, you can access the forms in two different ways. You can go directly to the Office 365 link, or you can go to the UTK homepage, scroll down to the very footer of it, click on Office 365, and it'll take you to the same page, either way. You'll click on the little waffle to get all of your apps, and you'll select Forms. So how do we create a form? Let's go and find out. So if you aren't here, if you aren't on your Microsoft Office 365 homepage, again, you can go to UT's homepage and click on Office 365. It'll take you to this page. This looks a little different than it did the other day just because I went down here and clicked on all apps and just opened all of the apps, but your home screen will look something like this, depending on what you've done in Office 365. Again, you can click on all apps and open them all here instead of looking at them here. So we're going to choose Forms right there. It's going to open up all of the forms that I have created. You may not have any forms. You may have a form that someone has shared with you or a template they've shared with you, but these are all the forms that we use. So I want to show you a couple of examples of the forms that we have before we show how to create a form. So from last week, if you fill this out, you saw this form. This is the back side of how it looks. So we've named the form. We've given a definition for the form, what it's about, what we're trying to collect. And then we created questions. And so you can have date questions, you can have rating questions, and you can have just text questions where they can fill in text. So here we had the comments. If you need to add new questions, you can do that by clicking here. So another example is a lunch order template. So say you're doing faculty searches and you need to schedule the lunches and you need to know who's going to attend and you need to know what they want to eat. So you can do a template like this. And if you create the template, you can make the copy of the template for each event and rename the form here to the date of the event rather than just template. So if you have this template, you can reuse it. We tend to order from Panera. That's just who we do when we do searches. So these are options that you get with Panera, but you could use any place that you wanted to for the food. You'd put the choices in there and then you'd have an allergy dietary needs form there. This is the travel planning worksheet. So this is what we use to collect travel planning for people. And it's rather lengthy, but we also have branching in place. And branching just means that if they say yes or no to a certain option, that it'll allow other options. So if they say, yes, we want you to book our airfare, it'll open up a new set of questions that says, what time do you plan to depart? What time do you need to leave? Do you have preferred airline? Those kind of questions. So that's what branching is. And if you want to activate branching from a question, you just click on the little ellipses there and you can add branching. When you do that, let me just show you what it looks like. It'll say go to next or end of form, depending on what they answer for that field, you can tell it where to go next. So that's how the branching works. So those are a few options of the ways to use forms. And I'm going to go back out to the main page here. And I've started a new form, but I'll just show you really quickly. Up here, it says quiz. It defaults to quiz because I guess this is an academic institution, so that's just what they've named it. But if you click on this little down arrow here, you can create a new form. And so when you create a new form, you have the option to name it, and you immediately have an option to add questions. I do want to go back to this example that I had already started because I want to show you, you can change themes. So you can make your own theme. And how you do that is click on themes at the top. And it gives you some examples, but you can also add your own special theme. And so that's what I've done here. I've added an image here. And on the form name, I've added an image here of our shared services logo. So if we want to name this form shared services form, we can enter a description here if we want. We can add questions, and here, when you add a question, you have the option of doing choices with the radio buttons. You can do text. So if you want a long text or short text, you can choose that option. You can do rating, and rating will let you do stars or numbers, depending on what you want. I like the stars. Delete that. And then you can choose dates. So if you just need someone to provide a date of, say, when they're coming, or when they attended the sessions, which was what we do, then you can choose a date field, and then they'll have the option to fill a date in. So if we say we want a choice option, you can put the question in. You can say, which option do you like? And then it gives you some suggestions. So you can choose those suggestions, or you can just type in what you want. And you can say beef or chicken as an example. And then they'll have a question that they can answer. Now, when these responses come in, you'll see that there's a tab for responses here. And I want to go back to a form that actually has some responses to show you how that works. And we'll go to our coffee and pie feedback one. That's a good one. Okay, so when you get responses from your form, it's going to give you some statistics on your form. It's going to give you your average ratings, the typical responses, and it even gives you a little wordle of what words were most used in the comments box if you have a comments box. But you can also open this in Excel. And I will show you our travel responses for our travel form that we do. Let's notice that this Excel sheet is saved here. If you create a form, you can create a form from the destination that you want the file to be saved in. It's as easy as saying new and choosing forms for Excel. It's the same thing as what we did. When you click on that, it's going to take you back to where we were, and you're going to create the form. But the difference is that the results will be saved in the file that you want them saved in. So that's another way to get the same result, but it's saved in the location you want. Okay, so these are the results that come from that travel form, the one that's branched and really long. It has some columns. If you notice, the status column is something that I update, and there's a notes column at the end that I update. And in the form, on the form side, let me go back to the form and just show you really quickly. On the form side, you'll notice that you've got status for office use only. So they can't enter anything in this field when they fill this out. They just skip it. And so that gives me that empty field. And when you do that, what you're doing is you're choosing a question with the radio buttons, and then you're just deleting the options, and it leaves you with just a blank question, basically. But that gives you, on the results side, it gives you a field that you can fill in that won't alter what they've filled in. So in this instance, we're collecting a lot of data. We're asking them for their life story to make sure that we get everything in their travel arrangements correct. So, but this is what the results will look like. But going back to here, let's see. Now that one open, possibly this one might go. Let's just see. Because these results will mean more to you if you're doing polls. If you're doing tasks, then you could do this, for any task. Say your office has an issue with, multiple staff are trying to do different tasks and no one knows what everyone else is doing. You can create a form like that for your faculty to fill out. There it goes. To track all kinds of tasks, not just travel. So that's a way to do it. I know I talked last week, if you were here, about how business analytics and statistics, they use a very detailed SharePoint task form, and then it goes to a SharePoint list, and that's how they track their tasks. Well, this is kind of a simpler version of that you can use, especially if you don't have the expertise of K Little John. Okay, so this is our results from our polls, and see, it gives you quite a bit of information. It gives you when they started the poll, when they completed the poll, gives me their email, their name, and then the questions we had were: what was the date you attended, overall presentation, the materials and the durations. We ask those with the rating stars. So it gives us a number here to give how many stars. And then we have comments. So they were able to say, yes, we loved it, or no, we hated it, or whatever. So that's what the results will look like. One thing you want to note is that these titles at the header level, those come from the question. So we go back to this one, the questions. Notice that I make the title of the question really short and simple. And then I add a subtitle. And the subtitle is the actual question. So that's a way to keep your column headers really short, is to make the question, just a short version of the actual question, and then do your subtitle. Again, that's clicking the ellipses, going to subtitle. And then you can put the actual question in the subtitle so that you'll see it when you go back to this form. So you'll see the actual question. Again, there's one, it's overall presentation, and it says, please rate the overall presentation. So this is what you see at the header, the column header. So in the settings, again, I hit the ellipses up here and I clicked on settings for this form. This is just for this form. You can check out, anyone can respond to this form. And you can also check out only people in my organization can respond. So that's UT people with utk.edu emails. And then you can do specific people in your organization. So say you just want a specific list of people, you can provide that list and they only have access to that form. When you say anyone can respond, it does not collect who did the form, who completed the form. It doesn't get their name, it doesn't get their email address. So that's how you do anonymous, is anyone can respond. I like to use this one because if I do send out a survey and some people respond, I don't want to pester those people that do respond with saying, hey, could you go ahead and fill that survey out because you haven't done it yet. So if you're doing it for your faculty for, say, a search candidate coming in and you're trying to coordinate the lunches, you don't want to send a blast email to the whole faculty for like 2 people that haven't responded. So you want to collect who responded. But if you're doing one and you want them to have anonymity, then you can just do anyone can respond there. And notice here you can have options for the responses. You can customize the thank you message. So if you want to say thank you to them or give them a specific message like this has been received and you should see results in whatever days, then you can customize the thank you message there too. Now let's go to sharing. So when you want to share your form, there's several ways here to do it. And if you want to share it to collect responses, if you're just sending it out to the people to get the responses, collect the data from them, then you're using this link right here. Now these links are super long, and notice it has a shortened URL, but we also have a service with UT. If you have a UTK email, you can log in and it's tiny.utk.edu. So if you've ever seen a tiny.utk.edu link, they're using the URL shortener service through UT, and that way it's got the UTK branding on it. So it's a little bit better than the shortened URL here. And again, that's, if you go here, it's tiny.utk.edu, and you'll have to authenticate. And then you'll paste the long URL here, and you'll give a short name for it. So, for the coffee and pie, when it's coffee and pie feedback, I think is what the name of it is. For our travel planning form, it's SS travel form, for shared service travel form. So you just come up with a short name here, and then you create it, and it's going to give you an approval to say it's been done, and you can share that link, the shortened link, and it's a little bit better. But another way to share a form is to share it as a template. So say you've created a form like the lunch template, and someone else in the department or someone else in another department says, hey, I'd like to have a copy of that form to use for my department. That's where you use this one. So you copy this link and send it to them, and then they will open their forms and they'll have access to your template form. So that's a way you can do. And then the third option is to share or collaborate your form. So say you've created a form and someone else in the office says, I'd really like that question to be before this question, or I'd really like to have an option to change some things around. Then you share this link with them, and then they can collaborate on your form that you created and edit it. So those are the ways to share. Now I think I really have told you everything about forms.